Let's begin with the top stories this hour. Congress lawmakers impede the endorsing of the controversial medical education bill. The adjourned legislature parliament to resume today. The government opens door for migrant workers to go to Malaysia after a gap of 8 months. Misunderstanding with Malaysian side remains. A new ruling on the land use in the offing, landlords liable for fines if cultivable land left unattended. And world number one Novak Djokovic advances to the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. Serena Williams and Osaka Naomi also progressed to the quarterfinals. And let's begin with national political updates. The parliament as of recent has been a victim of indecision as the ruling and the main opposition parties have failed to come of age. Based on the parliament's schedule for yesterday, the controversial medical education bill was to be endorsed. However, lawmakers from the main opposition Nepali Congress resorted to protest as soon as the session began, which eventually led to the blocking of the bill's endorsement. The main opposition Nepali Congress had protested the government's decision to disintegrate and remove the hospital established in the name of former Prime Minister duo Girija Prasad Koirala and Sushil Koirala from the centre's jurisdiction. The ruling Nepal Communist Party meanwhile accused the main opposition Nepali Congress of taking an unhealthy approach by obstructing the parliament instead of resolving the issue through dialogues. Likewise, Nepali Congress has accused the government of adopting approaches on par with dictatorship, as the parliament has been a playground for verbal volleys between the ruling and the opposition. Many crucial issues concerning the general public have been overshadowed. The House of Representatives was in course to endorse the controversial medical education bill yesterday. It may be recalled that Dr. Govinda Kesi has staged his 16th round of hunger strike for the past 2 weeks, protesting against the proposed bill. Speaker Krishna Bahadur Mohra tried to proceed by endorsing the bill amid the opposition's protest, however, had to postpone the session until today. The session of the National Assembly, meanwhile, has been postponed till 20th of January. The government registered a bill for Land Use Act at the Federal Parliament based on which any individual holding cultivable land without making use of it will be subject to actions. Should the bill be approved, the public will also be prohibited from building residential houses or other infrastructures without a full approval from the government. Likewise, any individual tampering with the land area will have to pay a penalty of up to 300,000 rupees. Based on the government data, 26 million out of 61.82 million rupees of agricultural land across the country are left unattended at the moment. Likewise, some 12 million rupees of land that the general public had held 7 years ago have been divided into over 30 million plots. Haphazard plotting and construction has surged as of recent, along with decreasing soil fertility. In the absence of timely scientific categorization of the lands and lack of the Land Use Act, Nepal's dependency on imports for agricultural produce has also skyrocketed in the past years. Likewise, exploitation of land has also aggravated issues related to climate change. In order to deal with the mismanagement, the government has proposed to divide lands in 10 categories, which includes agricultural, residential, economic, industrial, and forest, among others. If the bill registered by the government is endorsed intact by the parliament, haphazard real estate works and construction of buildings in lands other than those in residential areas will be prohibited. Likewise, a newly approved land use map will be implemented, and anybody using land against the map will be subject to punishment. The bill also includes a provision of forming a land use commission at the federal, provincial, and local levels. The High-Level Land Improvement Commission had recommended the then government to form a Land Use Act 24 years ago. The bill registered at the Parliament has incorporated the recommendations made by the Commission. The Judicial Council has initiated actions against Chief Judge of Biratnagar High Court Kul Ratna Bhurtel for taking unethical decisions in the gold smuggling case. The newly appointed Supreme Court Chief Justice Cholendra Samsar Rana ordered to summon Judge Bhurtel to the Council Secretariat for making a controversial decision in the gold smuggling case. Judge Bhurtel had overturned the decision made by the District Court and allowed bail to majority of those convicted in the 38 kg gold smuggling case. The Judicial Council had earlier summoned judges at the Biratnagar High Court Nagendra Karna, Saranga Subede, Thir Bahadur Karki, Umesh Kumar Singh and Umesh Raj Paudal in the same case. Welcome back. After stopping migrant workers from going to Malaysia for foreign employment for the past 8 months, the government has now started giving permission to those laborers who wish to go to Malaysia for foreign employment. With the directive from the Ministry of Labour, Employment and Social Security, the Kathmandu Labour Office gave final labour permission yesterday to 30 Nepalese migrant workers who want to go to Malaysia. The Department of Foreign Employment has also asked the manpower companies to provide details of those workers who have received calling visas. The manpower agencies have informed that there are around 10,000 such workers in the country with calling visas. The department has asked the manpower companies to submit the details after Labour Minister Gokarna Bista took action on 16th of May last year against companies that charged 18,000 rupees per labour, citing fees for visa process and health inspection. Nepalese human resources have not been able to go to Malaysia to work. There had been a labour agreement between Nepal and Malaysia on 29th of October last year regarding sending workers to Malaysia without any fees. However, the labourers had not been able to go to Malaysia due to the misunderstanding between Minister Bista and the officials at the Embassy of Nepal in Malaysia regarding the manpower agencies charging unnecessary fees. After some businessmen close to the ruling Nepal Communist Party met and requested Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli to give permission to send the labourers to Malaysia, the Prime Minister had directed Labour Minister Bista to resolve the issue within a week. The Labour Ministry decided to issue a notice to turn in the details of the labourers with calling visas after receiving pressure from the businessmen and labourers. The swindling cases filed by Nepal government at various courts against the manpower agencies are still under consideration. Meanwhile, the officials at the Embassy of Nepal in Malaysia have stated that they would not let the process of sending labourers move ahead unless the manpower agencies are given back their authority. Many tourists visiting Nepal for social works and travelling have been found to sexually exploit children. The latest case of a pedophile nabbed by the police had visited Nepal 16 times in the past 5 years. Based on the investigations carried out by the Central Investigation Bureau of Nepal Police, there are over 24 tourists in police custody under various charges. The CIB got hold of 50-year-old Anne Robert, an English national who had been frequently visiting Nepal, targeting children for sexual abuse. The police investigations revealed that Robert had travelled to Nepal 16 times in the past 5 years. He has been accused of sexually abusing children, especially children and youngsters in the age group 10 to 15. The police had nabbed Robert red-handed from Kalimati. The CIB has arrested at least 10 tourists in connection with child abuse in the past 4 years alone. According to the police, tourists who enter Nepal in the pretext of social service or travelling lure children to engage in sexual activities by offering them money and other gifts. Likewise, in the same time period, the CIB also rescued 21 sexually exploited children from other abusers. The police has stated that a majority of these offenders were booked for similar charges in their own country. Police officials working in the case have urged the government to keep an eye on suspicious foreign nationals in a bid to protect children from falling victims. 3 electric buses of Lumbini Development Trust that were to be operated by Saja Yatayat in Kathmandu have yet to be used because of the dispute on their country of origin. Commission for the Investigation of Abuse of Authority has begun investigations following the Prime Minister's directive as the buses inaugurated by the Premier himself were plagued by dispute. The South Asian Tourism Infrastructure Development Project under the Ministry of Tourism had signed an agreement 13 months ago with the Chinese company BYD for the purchase of 5 20-seater buses and 11 cars for the Lumbini Development Trust. However, those buses and cars did not arrive for 6 months, while only 3 buses arrived after a year. Attributing the absence of infrastructures for operation of electric vehicles in Lumbini, the Lumbini Development Trust had provided the buses to Saja Yatayaat for their operation in Kathmandu by charging a certain fee. Prime Minister inaugurated the buses amid a grand program on the 23rd of October last year. He had reached Singhadarbar from Pulchok in the electric bus. However, Saja has not been able to operate the bus since the inaugural. The ministry is not satisfied with the technical aspects of the electric buses. Based on the technical tests sanctioned by the ministry, it was found that the bus did not meet the agreements on 17 criteria. The ministry has demanded the buses and cars based on the agreement after it found that the buses were made in India instead of China and the weight of the bus also differed. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli urged the anti-graft body to investigate the issue after finding out that he was asked to inaugurate the buses in rush by the ministry without cross-checking in terms of required conditions. The CIAA is studying all the documents related to the procurement of the vehicles. The ministry bringing in the buses from the customs, despite being aware of the circumstances, has led to intense debate. The Tarigaon Airport in Tulsipur, Dang has been in operation since 64 years. However, despite the region already having an airport, the local leaders have proposed for constructing an alternative airport at Ghorai sub-metropolis. In this context, we had asked the locals in Dang why have the leaders felt the need for a new airport when there is one already in operation. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
Public voice.
अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय विमानस्थल भैरवामा हुँदा हुँदै र डोमेस्टिक विमानस्थल तुलसीपुरमा रहँदा रहँदै पनि अहिले एउटा एक खालको मलाई के लाग्छ भन्दाखेरि नेताहरूले आफ्नै किसिमले अलिकति दबावपूर्ण ढंगले अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय विमानस्थल बनाउन चाहेको जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो।
नेताहरूले आफू मोटाउने काम मात्र गरेको यहाँको जनताहरूलाई बरममा पारिरहेको छ।
यहाँ तिनी घरबासहरू धेरै छन् अनि जग्गा जमिनहरू धेरै छन् अनि घरहरू धेरै छन् त्यसकारणले धेरै नोक्सान हुन्छ।
सोचमा एकदम गलत छ किन भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो खोला नाला सब माथिबाट बग्छ। खोला नाला माथिबाट बग्ने भावनाले अब यहाँ एयरपोर्टमा पनि दक्षिणतिरको सारा सब जमिनहरू कृषिजन्य जमिनहरू काम नलाग्ने हुन्छ।
अरु विकासका योजनाहरूलाई खाँची राखेर यो विमानस्थल चाहिँ नहुने खालको 30 वर्षसम्म नबनेका विमानस्थल पनि यो देशमा छ।
हामीलाई बरु बाटाघाटा चाहिएको छ। बाटाघाटा पुल ठाउँ भत्रिरहेको पुल हामी उहीँ गएर भनिरहेका थियौँ। हामीले नगरपालिकाभित्र गएर भनेका हामीले उहीँ अफिस गएर पुगेपछि काम भन्नु भएन। अरूले
विकास गर्नुपर्ने धेरै योजनाहरू रहेका छन्। त्यसलाई गर्न नपाउनको लागि नगराउनको लागि उहाँले एउटा चाहिँ के एयरपोर्टको विषय ल्याएर यहाँ जनतालाई अलमलाउने काम हो।
आवश्यक छैन जस्तो लाग्छ हामीलाई त किनभने तुलसीपुर 14 किलोमिटर दूरीमा यो एयरपोर्ट हुँदाहुँदै
And it's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where it texts us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
And your question is, what's your take on the new proposed ruling to punish the landlord if they are found to keep their land unattended? Our options are A, productive thinking, B, useful to curb plotting, and C, implementation to be challenging. The voting is on. Type any WS selector option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And before we wrap up this morning news bulletin, here's a look at the top stories one more time. Congress lawmakers impede the endorsing of the controversial medical education bill. The adjourned legislature parliament to resume today. The government opens door for migrant workers to go to Malaysia after a gap of 8 months. Misunderstanding with the Malaysian side remains. New ruling on the land use in the offing, landlords liable for fines if cultivable land left unattended. And world number 1 Novak Djokovic advances to the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. Serena Williams and Osaka Naomi also progressed to the quarterfinals. And those were our latest headlines. Stay with us for more news and entertainment on KTVSD. Good day.